action is what gets you results. And I see the number one thing that people lack out there is it's laziness, it's lack of action, and lack of going out of their comfort zone, to be real honest. When you help somebody and expect nothing, something comes back in return. But when somebody's like, I'm going to do this for you and then you do this for me, I can't stand that. But people play that game. And the other thing is it's never give up. I mean, it is, if you really want something and you stick with it and you surround yourself with the right people, you can achieve it. I've done it many times.
Are you feeling stuck, lost, tired, or uninspired? We've all been there, including myself. I'm Coach Dez, mindset motivator and lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm here to tell you that the best, unapologetic, and limitless version of yourself is yet to come. The Born Unbreakable podcast is here to inspire just that. With motivating guests from all different walks of life and around the world, their stories will empower you to unlock abundance and your unbreakable spirit. Do you need accountability? Reach out to me for a free consultation of how I can support you in reaching your maximum potential. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. I said this before on some previous episodes. We're in the month of October now, and I talked about how we have less than 90 days left in 2022, which is crazy. And so that is why I'm very excited about the guest that I have on the show today, because if you were looking for inspiration and how you're going to power through, not just this year, but even start thinking about who you're going to be as you move forward in 2023 and beyond, you're going to want to pay attention because there's so many things I could say about my guest, Brandon T. Adams. So I had to kind of pick and choose because there's just so much that he's accomplished. He's an entrepreneur, a speaker, a podcaster, an author. It's so impressive. If you're actually watching this interview, he's got a couple things behind him called Emmy Awards. So he's a 2-time Emmy Award winner. His wife is in the industry and she's done some incredible things as well. They've written a book together. So you're going to have to check that out. It's called The Road to Success: How to Achieve Success in Business, Life, and Love. You could find it on Amazon. He's also founded Accelerant Media Group. And he just does a lot of stuff in producing TV shows, documentaries. And I'm very thrilled that he can talk about an upcoming event that he has called Rise and Record. It's actually October 19th to 21st. So he can talk more about what that is, how you can find out about tickets and all the good things that you can get if you actually tap into that experience. But Brandon, I couldn't be more excited to have you here today. Thank you for taking your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share some stories, and I love your energy. And it's always fun coming on a show when you have great energy and excitement. It helps with the conversation. And I'll definitely share everything I know, stories, the ups and downs, the shit I had to do to get on this journey where I'm at today.
Well, I know that you're an Iowa boy. And
Iowa, baby. Yeah.
Of ice packing with your dad. And so, it all started out there in the Midwest. But, I think we have to start with your personal story because we know where you are today. Obviously, I've highlighted that and we'll get into that. But you had to be somewhere else before you got here. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Northeast Iowa, a town called Garnavillo. It's a town of 700 people. It's literally surrounded by 700 people. Surrounded by cornfields, and I exercise every day, and so when I go home I run, and I have the same route I've ran for 17 years, and like my route is basically running around the town. And so grew up in a small town, and I grew up in a packaged ice business. So my dad sold ice for a living, and it packaged, like, think of the bag ice you buy at a convenience store, or maybe ice that you see at a bar. And so worked in that business my entire life. Like in 1986, my father got into the business. 1989, I was born. I swear, as soon as I was like out of the womb, I was working with my dad in the ice business. I was throwing ice down. Like, it was a part of me. And so that was my beginning. And I love that because I got to really see what it was like to work with mom and pop stores. We worked with small convenience stores, bars, restaurants, big businesses, events. And for me, I got to see, I mean, I was a delivery guy once I got to legally 17, 18. I was probably 15 driving a truck. But going and talking to these people from, they were running a food business, a restaurant, a convenience store, well, you name it. They had a bait and tackle shop. And so I got to meet with so many small business owners, and I got to learn what it was like, the seasons they went through and what they did. And so that was my early beginnings in business. I got to see what it's like to run a real brick and mortar business beyond the online world and podcasting and TV. I didn't even know what any of that really was. And so
Yeah.
that was my beginning. A big pivotal part of my career was I got into college and I wasn't so good book smart wise. Like I got a 1.68 GPA my freshman year. I was selling moonshine, so we called it apple pie. So think it was apple. Here's my recipe: Everclear, apple juice, sugar, honey, boil it up, put it in bottles, sell it. I was making money out of the dorm room selling illegal alcohol. And so that was like my entrepreneur journeys. And that led to me getting kicked out of the dorm rooms and almost dropping out of college. But I ended up getting my degree somehow. But here's what changed in college is I was failing speech comm class. Think of this. I get paid to speak.
I
I
can't
was
even
failing
imagine.
speech class. And so to get extra credit, what I did is I went to a guest speaker presentation. That person was named Cactus Jack Barringer, a famous inventor. And he had led me to this book. He said, this book will change your life, called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And so that was a decade ago. It was maybe a little more, 11 years ago. And I read the book and it completely changed my thought process. It made me realize like anything's possible. You see what Andrew Carnegie and Thomas Ford and Thomas Edison or all these people, what they did. And they weren't no different than you and I. Like some of them didn't even get past eighth grade. But what they had is they had the belief in themselves to achieve something. And they knew if they surrounded themselves with the right people and had a strategic plan that they stuck with, they'd eventually achieve anything they set their mind to. And so that was a pivotal moment for me because I realized no matter what I do, whether it's in the ice business or something else, I could become the best at something. And so that's what I did. And that changed everything for me.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
From ice packing to technology and
I know.
everything else that we're dealing with in 2022.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I I love the story because it really is about those grassroots, the door to door, the connection. Because despite where we are today, which is phenomenal, right? The fact that you and I could be here on through the computer in different places and
Yeah.
doing this great interview is awesome. But what's held true through time is the ability to connect and to do it well. If you want repeat clients, repeat business, you want authentic relationships. So it's such an important part. And the fact that you got to learn those skills really young is why
Grateful.
you've been able to carry that, even though you were almost kicked out of school for doing moonshine in your dorm room.
I mean, hey.
Um, hey, but so then what led you? Because I love TV shows, documentaries. If anybody who's listening is probably watched dozens of documentaries on,
Mm-hmm.
because if you go on Hulu, if you go on Netflix, it's such a big thing. People are drawn to stories that are real, that touch your heart. That changes your life, and it's always the talk of things. People are texting, "Oh my God, did you see the documentary? Did you see this? Did you see this?" And they just like the fact that you see adversity and people coming out on the other side, or things like that. Like, what drew you to the industry of doing that kind of work?
Well, funny enough, so read the book and then I'm in the ice business. And while thinking of the book, I'm like, how can I make more money in the ice business? And so I invented this product called Arctic Stick to cool and flavor drinks, a reusable product. And so got a patent, trademark, spent a lot of money and time and effort and launched it. And so I launched it on the market. We had some sales, I didn't make a lot. But my last leg of funding, what I did is I raised money through crowdfunding. So I went to Kickstarter.com, raised some money, and then I realized while doing it, I'm like, wow, this is not easy. a lot of people need money. Well, why don't I become a crowdfunding expert? So I started I built this business around helping people raise money, did a couple of big campaigns that gave me notoriety and also like a reputation in the world. And I had a guy come to me and say, hey, if you help me raise money for my TV show called Ambitious Adventures, I have a pilot shot, like a 4-minute pilot, raise the money, I'm making my co-host, we'll create a show. I said yes, raised the money within 60 days. Within 90 days, we're filming the first episode. Went on to film season 1 of the show. We didn't win an Emmy. We got an Emmy nomination. We got to interview some amazing people, from Jack Canfield to Jake Paul before he was a fighter, to Kevin Harrington, to Lewis Howes, to so many amazing people around the world. And so did that show, and then I was in the show space. And what I did is I started investing more money in film and video, did another show, then I did a show with my wife called Success in Your City, and then we produced the Think and Go Rich movie. And so I really saw the power of storytelling. How did I get in this space? Somebody need help in raising money, which a lot of people do. I used my specialized knowledge to help raise money, and then I found my way to get a part of the project, and then I started really funding my own endeavors. And so that got me to film. But what came from this was I understood the power of telling a great story. Because when you can tell a great story, you can connect with the audience, but you can inspire them, you can motivate them, you can get them to take action, whether it's putting money towards a cause, selling tickets to an event, funding an endeavor, whatever it is. And so I really understood how to utilize that power in ways that could help me with my goals, but also to help other people. And that's how I got into it.
That is so crazy.
It
That is so
is. It
crazy.
is really crazy when I think
Hey, I'm
about it.
gonna
Yeah.
help and do something over here. And I think I did this blog post recently, and it was basically saying how it's important to stay open, right? And
Mm-hmm.
have this mindset of being staying ready,
Yeah.
staying ready for opportunities that could come your way, because you don't know when they're going to happen, right? It's just they sometimes come when you least expect it, and you can take advantage and seize them, or they pass you by. And
Yeah.
this is such a cool thing, because it's not like you were in direct sight of pursuing something, but then when you did pursue it, you figured out how to turn it into even something bigger than you anticipated when you first started in this business.
Entrepreneurs see opportunity. I
Yeah.
saw an opportunity as I went on different endeavors that could be bigger things, and I seized them. But I also had to do the work, and taking action is, I mean, the really the key to success. Um, yeah, it's good to be around great people and have the knowledge, but action is what gets you results. And I see the number one thing that people lack out there is it's laziness, it's lack of action, and lack of going out of their comfort zone. To be real honest, I've always became comfortable being uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
always, like the second I get comfortable, it drives me nuts. I'm like, what can I do that's going to stretch me, push me to get to the next level, which helped me get to the next level. And so also helps when you're around really big thinkers that have achieved a lot, that they've done it. So it's like, okay, you're lifted up by them to go to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always this notion, right? That no matter where you are in life, there's people in front of you that can teach you, and there's people that are behind you that you can teach.
Yeah.
But you're always need to do that assessment of, do you have enough teachers? Because if you aren't challenged, then you probably need to elevate your circle, right?
Yeah. 100%.
I think that's a big thing. But you mentioned success in your city,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool, because that is what got you
Yeah.
quite a bit of your own success.
Yeah.
And I saw that it was so it's on Amazon Prime, but did it come out
So,
already on
so the
DirecTV
show,
and
so the show
Periscope?
actually released in 2019. We first
Hmm.
did a theater premiere and release in Arizona. We released on Amazon Prime, but actually it was about a year ago. We took everything down, and now we're in the middle of a distribution deal. It'll be releasing later this year on DirecTV and other cable and streaming outlets. So it's cool because this show was created in our heads. Like, this was something we literally created from the ground up. It was my wife and I sitting on a beach before we even engaged, we were sitting on a beach in Puerto Rico. Said, what are we gonna do next? And that next thing was, let's go travel the country and let's film a show around what success is. And the question was, we're asking ourselves, what is success? And so we interviewed athletes to business people to billionaires to homeless to you name it. And we got different versions of success and we documented the journey. So we'd live in a city, be there for like 3-4 weeks. And then what we would do is we would fly in a film crew and set up to go film a 4 or 5 days of docu series. And so we'd do a story, film it, okay, pack up, go to the next city, go to the next city. We never lived in 12 cities. We ended up living in 6 cities and filming a 5-part series. And so that whole journey, I mean, we filmed the whole show. And just so you know, when typical production happens, somebody shoots a pilot, like I told you that story, how I got into the business, shoot a pilot, but then they go shop it out and look for a distribution deal. And then if they get the funding, they go shoot the rest. I said, fuck it, I'm going to go do the whole thing. And so what I did is we went, shot it, I funded it, we got some sponsors, we did the marketing, we did the casting, we did the everything, and created this brand from the ground up. And then when it like released, and the best, coolest thing I'll tell you was when we released in 2019, it was on the big screen, and we did the Shea Hillenbrand story, which ended up winning some Emmys. And so we did that. But as soon as we got done with the filming, we're like, we need to write a book on this. And so we wrote the book, The Road to Success, How to Achieve Success in Business, Life, and Love, which is basically supplementary to the show, which tells the stories of the people we featured, but also tells behind the scenes of the shit we had to do to actually create the show. And so 2 things that now talking about it, I always think it's crazy. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And it's cool now because it's turned into, it's a brand, it's a movement about what is success, but also it's transitioned to this rise and record, rising up, sharing your story and recording video content. So
Yeah.
a lot of battle scars along the way, a lot of hearing no and wondering if it was going to work, but persistence and action. Like I said before, you have to take a lot of action.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can only imagine, because here's the thing. A lot of times when people are starting a project, they're doing it in one place, and
Yeah.
that's really hard. You were picking up and going to multiple places, different environment, different people, different
Some people didn't
scenarios.
know.
So
Random cities. Yeah.
constant. Oh my gosh. What was one of the most memorable cities or experiences that you had while you were recording?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a couple. I'll tell you one that was one of the lowest moments, and I'll tell you one that I realized that it was a really cool experience knowing that this is what it's supposed to be about. Um, there's 3 I'll share. When we got after our first city filming, we went to Austin, Texas, and we were hitting a brick wall from funding. And also, while doing this, keep in mind, I had other businesses. And so, like, going through obstacles with them, and I was basically almost about to lose everything, almost went bankrupt. And so I somehow, like, God really saved me there. We're in a city, we're in a hotel, I'm down to my last like $185 worth of credit and have nothing. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. And my fiance, now wife, like, we're sitting in the room, like, do you want to go home? And I'm just like, did I just fail everything? Because we filmed 1 episode, going for 2, and is it done? And so what happened is I just kept pushing forward, and then just really started praying and believing. And eventually what happened a couple days after, like, one of my lowest moments, I had a deal that went through that made me a lot of money, that allowed me to have life again. And so that was a really experience I'll never forget, and where I really started becoming a believer. And then fast forward, went to Boston, and we met a guy that was homeless for a long time, and we featured a story in him. And after being with him, I realized, he said, you can do a lot with a little, and most material things don't matter. And then we realized, you're right. And we went home, and within 30 days, we sold our house. I sold 99% of our things. I sold 2 businesses and completely made a transformation, and then went all in. We went to our next city. And so we went up finishing everything. I mean, when people say they're all in, like, I say, really? Like, you want to know? I gave everything I had, literally everything I had. I put it all into the show. And so I was committed. And the cool experience on set was, I think of this one recently because we got our event coming up in Nashville. we're filming in Nashville. We're filming with a musician, Phaedra LeGros, and they do song circles, like where people write songs and they go off each other. We're filming this, and I'm there, and it wasn't as if we're filming. It was just us having a real life experience, and there just happened to be cameras there. It made me realize this is actually what creating great content's about. Like, this was a real experience. I'm vibing with them, and the whole thing was they were helping me write my vows because I was getting married, and so they're giving lyric. And so like we're doing this, and it was just one of the coolest experiences and moments, and that made me realize, wow, this is kind of like the finale of everything we've done to get here, and now I'm about to get married. And so it was quite the journey. Many great experiences, but those few were the ones that stood out to me.
Yeah, it's that's incredible, and you were so present for all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I think I've just have such an appreciation for everything that's going on in the world, and how quickly and rapidly things change, how important it is for us to be present, to embrace the pains because of what we learn when you are in a struggle. Because I'm working on a book, and one of the things that I had written down yesterday was something like, when we're tested, we get the greatest testimonies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like that, where you're on your last, few dollars before the next big thing hits, so you can kind of continue to go on. It tests you,
Yeah.
right? You're like, okay, now what? Now where do we
Yeah.
go? Where do we go from here? And usually it is at that point, many people, arguably most people, might say, throw in the towel. This is too much. This is too hard. But
Most people do. I mean, there's a reason. Like, I said this, I think, yesterday. What is your version of success? What do you want to achieve? And ask yourself, what's the price you're willing to pay? There was one moment in my journey with that show, then also after the show, that I asked myself, am I willing to pay this price? And I paid it. I mean, I fucking lost everything. I mean, after the show, I almost went bankrupt because I went another low moment. They repoed my car. They took my land. They took everything I owned, literally everything I owned. And so when you hit a rock bottom like that, you just question everything. But what I found is when you hit rock bottom and you hit the fucking pit of the bottom, the shit, you just you come up with ways to get out because you don't ever want to be there again. And I didn't quit. I could have went home. I could have called a divorce. I could have did all that, but I didn't. And so what did I do every day? I woke up, went to the gym, I worked out my anger, picked up the phone, sent an email, did a meeting, did this. And within a matter of 18 months, I built everything back up and built my own empire. And so I I'm here to tell you that anything is possible. What's the price you're willing to pay? It's going to be really fucking hard. And it's going to be way harder than you can ever imagine. But if you stick with it, anything's possible. I'm living proof. I'm a kid from a town of 700 people that knew nothing. I didn't even know what an Emmy was. I didn't know what any of this was. I didn't know that you could make massive money. I mean, where I'm from, if you make $40,000 a year, you're living well. And
yeah,
the first time I made over 100 grand a day, I'm like, wow, this is like a different world for me. And so it's a powerful thing what the mind can do. It will be challenged. But again, if you get up, if you take action, you stay persistent, you can get whatever you want in life. I really believe that.
yeah. And you could not be more accurate. And that is just the ultimate difference between those that achieve what they want and those that
Yeah.
don't, is is action or inaction. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, it is that simple. Every day when we wake up in the morning and get out of bed, one foot out of the after the other, you have a choice. Every day we're all given that choice of whether to stay in bed, and because everyone is dealing with things. There's nobody exempt, from dealing with the hardships of life. but you can choose to make that phone call, send that email, get out and run, or just wallow. And
You said the word choose. That's right.
yeah.
You choose. You can choose to do and go after your dreams, or you can decide to throw in the towel. And
Hmm.
for me, I don't throw in the towel. And when you have that mindset of choosing your own path, I mean, anything is possible. And so and for me too, I love sharing this message with others because I want them to understand, like, you can still get through. I had mentors along the way that I was on the phone with crying, didn't know what I was going to do, and they helped walk me off the ledge. And so, again, it's also important to be around people. Podcast show like this, positive content, positive influence, because that's the atmosphere that we bring in into our mind, and which ultimately results in what our output is.
Yeah. So I have to ask, because you've traveled around, you've done shows, you've funded big projects, and now you're doing this event,
Yeah,
and that's not a small feat.
no,
Like, core, I'm getting more into that as the next business I'm actually starting, is in an event business, and it is fucking a lot of work.
yeah,
So
it is.
even just one event, a big event with a great impact and the right people, the right influence, so you attract the right audience. Tell me about Rise and Record. How did it come about, and what are you expecting coming up on October 19th to 21st?
Yeah, so everything we just talked about is really the emphasis and whole foundation of what Rise and Record is. It's rising up and sharing your story specifically through video. And so when we were on, I mean, there's two sides of this where it so touches home with my wife and I. Is the one side is, like, we rose up and shared our story through video along our journey creating this show. I mean, I've been doing it for a decade now. She was filming me, we were filming content, we're sharing our story with the world. So that's one side. The other side is we were on set and we were interviewing people and them sharing their story. It was very therapeutic for them. It actually help the people, because they emphasized their story and they spoke it out loud. But once we put that on camera and then shared that through video or through shows, people, and empowered them because they had same experiences. It helped them overcome it, empowered them, inspired them. So how does that relate to Rise and Record? Rise and Record is about rising up and sharing your story and doing it specifically through video, through film, through shows. And so Rise and Record this year's in Nashville, Tennessee, October 19th through the 21st. We have speakers, we have entertainment. If you ever heard the band Florida Georgia Line, we had Brian Kelly from that band performing. He's going to be performing songs. I'm going to interview him on stage. We got Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. We got my wife and I sharing our stories. And so we create this experience where people speak, fireside chats, but we have dinners throughout the city. We have all kinds of stuff that people come in and they're going to walk away with the ability to share their story effectively, specifically how to use video with sharing their story, but they're going to be connected with good people. Like, I'm big on energy and who I'm with, and I want to bring people into an atmosphere that I'm in that they can walk away and they're like, I can take on anything, never give up. Anything's possible. And so that's what Rise and Record's about. I'm super excited. We put our life into this stuff, and it really emphasizes everything we do in our life in this event.
So people, can they still get tickets? I feel like this
It's
is a really
funny. It's because we are going to sell out, so you can still get tickets. We're sold out at one of the levels, but you can still get a general admission or VIP. And yeah, it's riseandrecord.com. I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Like, anybody listening, if you like want to tell a story, you want to use video in your business, or you just want to be around high vibing people that are looking to help each other, you got to be in that room. I can't
yeah.
tell you the amount of people's lives have been changed from attending our events. And that's really what it's for me. I mean, that is what drives me to keep doing this stuff. And I love it. I live for it. It's a lot of work, as you said, but I live for it.
It is, but it's tremendous. And I think, when you're a person of service and contribution and making a massive
Yeah,
impact, it's all worth it, right? I mean,
it
it's
is.
worth the it's worth this nights of no sleep figuring out how it's all going to be put together. But it's so amazing because one of the things that you pointed out, and I just want to emphasize, is about the networking. So I started this program with a few young women. It just launched in August, and the next topic that we're covering, so we kind of focus on one topic each time we meet. They're in their 20s, and part of my goal is to reach people at a time when they can make some informed decisions as they get a
Yeah.
little bit later in life, that might accelerate, give them some nitro gas in their fast and furious car, to get a little bit further ahead, or maybe to skip some road bumps. But that next topic is networking.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think being in the room with people that can challenge you, and you make those connections, and it's that 6 degrees of
It
separation that
is.
leads, the person that you're helping to raise money, that gets you into the video production, field, or whatever that may be. And I think that's the power of really being intentional in a time when, people want instant gratification, but it takes work. And I think this is such a meaningful way to get a massive impact on your life, is going to events like the one that you're doing. So
I live and
it's
breathe
going to
it.
be amazing.
Not only do I put them on, but I go to them myself. Like I'd love to have you attend. I love your energy, how you're doing podcasting, interviewing people. Like you would get something out of it. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of John Lee Dumas, but John Lee Dumas he's attending. He's a friend of mine. He's going to be there all 3 days, hanging out. He's speaking. He's doing some special VIP dinner stuff. But a guy that's interviewed 3,700 people. He's got 125 million downloads, 25 million in revenue from his podcast. He's built an empire, and he's got 2 million monthly listeners, and he's sharing stories. Not only is he asking the right questions, but he's sharing people's stories. So people like that can share such a valuable message to people in the room, because these are not easy people to get to. Like it's how
Yeah.
did I get that connection? We did a book launch 5 years ago, and I did $500,000 in a month. So I built a relationship up. He's flying in from Puerto Rico. So like this is something years in the making. I've been doing events to build up these relationships, and I always want to bring my friends and mentors together to provide value to people that normally couldn't get to this person, because it's hard to work your way up. It doesn't just like, oh, email them and they have everybody that emails them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
This leads me to a question, because I was thinking about this as I'm thinking of the program and the kinds of things that I want to influence.
yeah,
And I want to ask you about the importance of planting seeds,
yeah,
because you just said something that really hit me, which is, a lot of times people think, oh, I'll just, have this one interaction or email someone, and then the thing will happen. But it could take years for something to come into fruition, because you have to build trust, you have to build rapport, you have to show results, you have to have that, like you said, persistence, that someone sees that you're serious. And usually it's like dating, right? I
yeah.
mean, I know that there's shows where people, get married overnight or do these things, and it's really different and interesting. But for the most part, I would say before you make a commitment, there's a period of dating that you go through before you go, you know what? I trust this. I'm going to move forward. I think it's the same in a different way in business and in relationships. So I want your perspective on that.
I mean, that's been my whole career. I've been planting seeds and played the long game. Every major relationship I have, people are like, oh, did you get connected with them? I was always a long game. I helped them. Primarily, my events were the platform. I hired people. I used to pay out big fees. People would speak at my events, and I would create a great experience for them. And then we'd find ways to work together. But it wasn't just one and done there. It was beyond that. We would do another meeting. I'd make an introduction. I'd help them achieve their goal, whether helping them get a book launch done or help them with their show. I always found ways to add value to them. If you want to be really blunt, I made them money. People that get paid pay attention. And so once I did that, I also found other ways and just show I cared. Like they knew when you help somebody and expect nothing, something comes back in return. But when somebody's like, I'm going to do this for you and then you do this for me, I can't stand that. But people play that game. For me, I'm going to help you because I believe in you. If I believe in you, I'm going to help you. I'm going to make you money. I'm going to make introductions. I'll do whatever I can. And I'm not going to expect anything. But normally reciprocity kicks in and they want to help you in return. And so when you go into that mindset, and also again a long game, it, it's going to work out for you. I'll give you one quick example. Is when I read that book, Think and Go Rich, the guy that directed me to it in that story where I was at the class presentation, Cactus Jack Behringer, he made a deal with Kevin Harrington on Shark Tank. I remember watching this segment on Shark Tank, and I had said one day I'm going to work with that guy named Kevin Harrington. And so what did I do? Played the long game. I hired Cactus Jack as my mentor. I remember throwing 10 grand down to cash, and my parents thought it was a scam at the time. I was 22 years old, and
Are you seriously investing in that scam?
exactly, and I invested in him, and invested in like $25,000 in the relationship with him, and then that was 1 degree of separation to Kevin Harrington. Eventually, I reached out to Kevin. I talked to his team. I hired Kevin because Jack, okay. Hired him to speak at one of my events. We built a relationship up. And then our first big deal we did was we launched a book, Put a Shark in Your Tank. It was Kevin Harrington, and I helped launch it. So basically, people could buy to be in the book, be a part of it, contribute a chapter. We created this whole thing. I won my first real big book launch, and we made a bestseller. But the cool thing that came from it, our first relationship, is one of the guys that was a contributor to the book, we had done a mastermind together. We all came together, and this all came from that relationship. It led to a product called Peeps that cleans eyeglasses. Well, that product was not even $1 million product when he met us. It went on to do over 100 million in revenue. And so that came from that relationship. But again, look back, it was 4 years of planting seeds, hiring the mentor, closer, hiring him, closer, doing a book launch, closer, deal, more deals, more opportunities. And so you have to play the long game. And when you play the long game, you get great opportunities, and it exponentially increases your levels of success, and it gets you places most people spend their whole life getting to.
It is. It does. It pays dividends, right? That's why they say that.
Yeah.
You make the right investments and it will pay dividends. The same thing, just like money, happens in relationships. It's funny you say that. Like I recently went to the Summit of Greatness event that Lewis Howe
Shout out
puts
to
on.
Lewis House. I almost came to
Yeah.
that too. I wanted to be there. He's such a great guy.
He's just so amazing. I just love his work. I love his authenticity. It's his 7th year doing it, and he has such an amazing way of connecting with people very personally at his events. And even though there's so many people there, and he's coming out with a book in the spring called the Greatness Mindset,
I
and it was
love it.
announced well, now probably people know about it since then because that was a couple weeks ago. But if you bought 100 of his books and supported him, and you'd get a bunch of other things and stuff like it was a unique opportunity because
Smart. I
there's
like
only
that.
spots. Right. So of course I did that. It was like, yeah, I'm going to support you. And then we have a day that's coming up planned in early next year where we all of us, the few of us who did that, are going to get in a room with Lewis and riff on our businesses and all this other stuff. But it's to your point. So is it about like the awesome opportunity to get to work with Lewis? Yes. But what about those other people that are going to be in the room that are also entrepreneurs, that have incredible businesses, that have all these networks? I mean, that's the beauty of doing this work,
It
is the
is.
ability to one relationship and one conversation at a time, making a difference. That's a win-win situation because you're growing, but along the way, you're helping other people with growing their brands and their business. And nobody loses when you do that.
It's a win-win all around. Shout out to Lewis. When I saw your Born Unbreakable above you, I thought of Lewis with the colors right away. I talked
Yeah.
about branding. And I
Yeah.
almost went to the event. I was even going to fly in just for a day, but I had business meetings. I'm like, he texts me. He's like, you coming? And I wanted to, but I'll get there next year.
Yeah, no. And he always has the greatest people, Dr. Michael Beckworth was there, and
Yeah.
a lot of really, really awesome people. So it's, I always tell people too, like, hey, if you can just come for a day, just come for a day. It's like, fine, you'll get value, even if
I
it's just
know.
that one thing and you can't stay for the whole 3 days, you know? But, I just, yeah, I appreciate you so much talking about that with your events, because I think sometimes people think like, oh, like, are you really going to get anything? It's your whole weekend. And it's
You
like,
can't have that mindset. If you do, you're not gonna. You got to go into
oh,
like as if your life depended on it, and then that intention will give you the results you want.
yeah. Well, so then I have to say next, what is next for you? So when you think out the next 1 to 3 years, what's coming up for Brandon?
Just keep staying on my path. I mean, I'm Rise and Record's building. We're building a brand. My partner's going to have a large portfolio of companies that we're in, from telemedicine to um, cannabis, also alcohol again, but also technology companies,
Moneymaker.
yeah, entertainment. So many, a large portfolio of companies helping people. Um, but one of the things I have said on a 2024 project is doing another docu series that I'm still trying to figure exactly what it is. It might be around the whole never give up thing, but I'm still thinking through it. I've always like say I'm going to do something and then write it down, and then okay, it brews, and eventually it kind of clicks, and eventually I execute. So that's something down the road, but I got at least a year before it's going to be going on that endeavor.
No, I love it. I love it. If there's one thing that I hope people take from this podcast, is the importance of playing the long game, and and also just the how much preparation is important,
Yeah,
that leads you to your thing, because most great things don't get built overnight. It does take that year to really get,
yeah,
to the vision and the action, and also the right team to rally around the things that you're doing. So
it is.
I'm glad that you're honest about how long it actually takes to execute on some of that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely it's not overnight. You just got to have the right kind of mindset, long game, and the right people around you.
Yeah. Do you have another book in your future coming up?
Yeah, I have 10 books in my head. Um, I I do. I mean, part of me says I need to create a book called Rise and Record. Part of me
Mhm.
says I want the book Never Give Up. I have a lot of different book ideas, but I'm staying in my lane right now, and no, because it's a lot of work. I mean, when we did the book, I mean, we wrote the Road to Success. We locked ourselves in a room, and like we for four, because we both, my wife and I, wrote it together. So it literally,
Yeah.
from book deal with Morgan James Publishing back in May of that year, we
Yeah.
had in August our first like script basically done. By October, we had it in hand for all the attendees. We did one of the quickest turnarounds that not many people could do, but I was like, I put the pressure on to make sure it happened, and that was a lot of work. So for me, I'll do the work, but right now I have a lot of other things I need to put my energy into, and but another book will come.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. And I know exactly what you're saying. I'm in the process right now, and that's why I have so much respect for for you and every author, because it's a commitment.
It's
It
a
is
commitment.
definitely that you have to, but I think, what I appreciate too about you is your level of focus when you commit to the things that are in front of you, because you can only do so many things well. And if you stray and you have your self split across too many things, then you don't accomplish anything
It's
well.
true.
So you do have to choose, and you do have to prioritize. And I think that's the power of goal setting, planning ahead, is you kind of look out and you do that. So for any of you listening, don't underestimate the power of things like vision boards and goal setting, because if something really means something to you, like in the mastermind that I'm in, usually we'll pick like 4 rocks.
Mm-hmm.
These are, and we talk about it usually going into the next year, and it's relentless. It is though, if you could do lots of things, but the things that you're working on a daily basis, like you said, that you're taking action on every single solitary day when you wake up, is those things that you
Yeah.
commit to. other things, they're just going to have to wait. Maybe those are on the radar. Maybe those are in the future,
You
but
put them on the
it's,
side and you have them for another day, but you keep in your
yeah.
mind and keeps brewing.
Yeah. So I have a few questions for you just to kind of people get to know you a little more. So, my show is called Born Unbreakable. And it is about being able to go through adversity, get tested, and come out on the other side. So Brandon, what makes you unbreakable?
What makes me unbreakable? My mind, my desire, and I would say those are the things, like my mind in discipline. The mind is the most powerful thing. Like if you have the mindset of nothing can take you down, and when you've been through things that like take you temporarily down, you've been through hardship, like it makes you powerful to realize like nothing can take me down. I always say the only thing that's going to stop me is a bullet to the head.
That's the truth. That's the truth. I love it. I love your honesty. Okay, what is a self-limiting belief that you've had to overcome?
Self, you know, early on, like I said, like the amount of money is that you could possibly make. I had to get myself into a different atmosphere around people that had made a lot of money or achieved big things to be able to understand like that's a possibility. And until you actually see it for yourself, you just don't know what you don't know. And so the amount of money you can make,
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's
it is.
self-limiting
It is
beliefs.
a lot. I always
Yeah,
challenge people.
it's a tough one to work through, I
Yeah.
think, right? Because mentality and, like you said, upbringing, like you coming from a town of 700 people, you're not seeing certain things. I think that's a tough one. So you really do have to push yourself to be in an environment that allows you to get past that and believe a little bit bigger and more expansively.
Yep.
Okay, what is a superpower of yours? Something that you're really good at, that you're proud of?
I'm really good at bringing powerful people together and working towards a common goal to get the result you want. Whether it's creating a show, creating an event, creating any kind of experience. I know to orchestrate people and their talents in a way to create something powerful. So that's what I would say. I'm the execution man. I get shit done. Um, yeah,
There is no doubt about that.
yeah, yeah.
I was hoping you were going to say something about that because it's very evident in all the work that you've done. So that's so true. Okay, what about a bucket list? What is something on your bucket list that you want to accomplish?
Uh, you know, Bucket list. I It's a good question. I mean, I have some place I want to just travel internationally, and really, it's just more of I'm focused on things here right now, and taking a week off for that kind of thing isn't in my bucket list unless I'm getting hired to speak there. um, Even then, it might be have to be a lot of money because by the time I fly there and back, it takes away of other time opportunity costs. Um,
Yep.
that's a good question. I could probably give you, if I thought about it, maybe 10 different things on my bucket list, but I do a lot of things I love. I mean, I'm next week I'm traveling, I'm at big events. We get picked up from a jet and we get to fly to Mexico to this resort to go speak at an event, and then we get to come back and then get to go to Nashville, and I get to be with people at my own event, and we bring in known people, musicians, talented people. And so like I get to orchestrate that's been my bucket list, and I'm living my bucket list, I guess.
Yeah. That's one of the coolest things that I've ever heard is that when you can live it, that's probably the best version of your bucket list that you can have ever, right?
Yeah, it
So
is. Yeah, if I want to just go do it.
exactly. Just, and that when you have that mindset, you don't ever feel like you're missing out on anything. Um, Brandon, if you could give one last piece of advice to anybody who's listening right now, what would it be?
My advice would be there's two things. One, there's this quote by Napoleon Hill: whatever the mind conceives and believes, the mind achieves. So, really think about that. What you conceive in your mind and you actually believe, you can achieve it. And be careful what you think about, because your thoughts are what become your reality. And the other thing is, it's never give up. I mean, it is, if you really want something and you stick with it and you surround yourself with the right people, you can achieve it. I've done it many times. And you just got to really like be committed to it and know that there's sacrifice. Nothing comes free, and you're gonna have to pay a price. So that's really it. Don't quit. Just keep going.
It's brilliant. Oh, people need to play that section of the podcast a couple more times.
I know.
That's that little button where you do the 10 seconds back
Yeah.
button.
Do it
I do
again.
that a lot.
Again.
When I'm watching a show or listen, I'm like, oh shit, that was good. Hold on.
That's
One more
good.
time. One more
That's
time.
good.
That was that moment. But I think the last important question is how people can follow you, find you, because you do good shit and people are going to want to know how to
Thank
keep
you.
track of
Yeah.
all the things you're doing.
I'm everywhere at Brandon T. Adams on social media, my website, everything. And seriously, anybody listening, you hear this, come to Rise and Record, riseandrecord.com. Come hang out, experience it. I promise you, you'll be grateful that you did. Rise and Record is going to be a life-changing experience for you.
Yeah. And go out and check out Brandon on Instagram. The link is in there. There's a great short video that you can watch to just see the power of what the event is. I really do encourage that. And I do not, if you guys know me, do not promote anything that I don't think is valuable, because I promote things that I know I would go to myself. So just know that's coming from, the most sincere place. But I can't thank you enough. I know how valuable your time is. You're everywhere in all the places and everything. So the fact that you're here today and helping all the people that are tuning in, I greatly appreciate. It's meant so much to me.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. That interview was awesome. Oh my gosh. Brandon T. Adams has done some phenomenal things, so inspiring, and I cannot wait to continue watching everything that this man does. He is a machine, and Rise and Record, I seriously am going to think about the possibility of pulling that off. It's such a cool event. There's so much value that you will get if you go to this event. Especially think about the power of video and how you can accelerate that power by going to an event like this. Oh my gosh, if you are a YouTuber, a podcaster, anybody in the space of wanting to enhance the way you use video, wow. Amazing. Okay, I could sit here and point out at least half a dozen things that are my favorite about what I talked about with Brandon, but I really want to leave you with this today. And it's about the long game and planting seeds. And I really stress this because we live in the age of instant gratification. And even if you didn't grow up in this age, it has been bestowed upon us too. So those of you who have kids that are in the generation of the technology revolution, they are at the heart and at the center of the world of instant gratification and wanting absolutely everything this instant. Instacart, Grubhub, Netflix, binge watching, all the things that make us want everything, all the rewards right now. A part of it is great because we have the convenience of many things, and a part of it is actually, I think, fucking up our mindset a little bit, because great things take time. Great things take time. Building relationships that are trustworthy and that do pay dividends take time. And the best people that you're going to be surrounded with in your life, high quality, high performance people, are going to be ones that are harder to get time with. You are going to have to earn their trust. You're going to have to plant seeds, and you're going to have to do exactly what Brandon was talking about. And that is to add value and to expect nothing in return. And it will pay dividends later. So when you can be a selfless person that is in it to contribute, in it to provide impact, in it to teach, help, grow the world around you, it will come back to you tenfold. Those people will see that you're a stand-up individual, that you're consistent, that you're persistent, that you have a track record that is worth pouring into. It will happen, but you have to commit and you have to put in the hard work. So the message for today is about playing the long game. So play the long game. Think about, as your homework, what seeds do you need to plant? Are you planting those right now? Have you planted ones that you have not nurtured? Are there relationships and conversations that you need to be coming back to so people know you're there, so people know you care, so you are adding value to situations, projects, people? Think about that. Plant those seeds. I hope you've got a ton of value from today's episode. Be sure to subscribe and follow, rate and review. Tell your friends about the show. Share it. Truly, the power of a podcast, of content that is inspiring, is when you can share it with other people. So think of at least 3 people today that you can forward this episode to, so you can add some love, some light, some inspiration to their life. Show them that you're thinking about them and paying it forward. This is your ability right now in this very moment to plant a seed. Plant a seed. Remember, and this is what I love about me saying this today for the 100th, 200th, whatever time, if you've listened to both of my podcast shows, is because Brandon talked about the importance of action, is that you are your only limit. So take action today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for another amazing, inspiring episode of the Born Unbreakable podcast.